What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are live streaming to all of our hi-hat fans and debuting a Terra Lift new review as we talk about when you finish saving the world.
I'm sorry. I could barely take you seriously. I wrote that for you, and I didn't even want to say it. I was hilarious.
I read that right before we started. It's like, this asshole put this in the script. That's like, okay, I'm going to get into those two words later.
Evelyn and her oblivious son, Ziggy, seek out replacements for each other as Evelyn desperately tries to parent an unassuming teenager at her shelter while Ziggy fumbles through his pursuit of a brilliant young woman at school. Spoilers are ahead for When You Finish Saving the World. This is a directorial debut from Jesse Eisenberg, which is super exciting. It did premiere at 2022 Sundance, so a year and a half ago, which is pretty wild to think about.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll talk about that. We're obviously going to review the whole movie, get into true cinema, and we have a pretty fun A1 Acts to do. I want to talk about one A24 housekeeping thing, though, real fast. News just came out today, the day that we are recording, that Ari Aster has plans for his next film. Ben, did you see this information?
No, this is news to me, and I'm excited.
Okay, very exciting. I am trying to find the tweet right now because I didn't come prepared. And, you know,
it's all good.
It's always a fun thing. Okay, so Ari Aster, basically, let's see, next movie, Eddington is what it's called. It is described as a Western noir ensemble movie set during the COVID-19 pandemic. What are your initial thoughts?
That's a lot of words put together. That's crazy. It's like that movie made by Mad Libs, like Western noir.
It kind of is.
COVID.
You got to put Neo in there, right?
Oh,
like
Neo. Yeah. Listen, I'm here for it. Like, I mean, my thoughts on Bo are well reviewed on here, but my thoughts on Midsommar are also well reviewed on here, and so. Yeah, like he's a person that like I'm gonna show up like for whatever he's doing, so I'm ready for it.
Sure. Do you think so? We don't know yet if it's going to be produced by A24 or distributed by A24. This is just conjecture. Obviously, his first 3 films were A24 projects. I would assume that his fourth will be as well. I don't see why A24 would let someone like Ari Aster, who has as much like cachet and street value as he does, why they would just like let him go, unless that's something that Ari wants to do personally. It is a lot to take in, but I'm really curious. Do you think that he will continue to branch like he did with Bo, or do you think he tries to overcorrect based on the feedback with Bo, the box office? Do you think, like, because I know he viewed Bo is Afraid as like, that's the one shot, right? Like, that's my Babylon. Like, if I never get to make another movie, I'm glad that I did that one. But now he's making another movie. So, like, which direction do you think he goes?
I don't know. I'm very curious. Like, I think so much of us were wondering, like so many of us were wondering, like what the horror elements of Bo were going to be, because when you kick off your career with Hereditary, it's like, oh shit. And then you follow up with Midsommar. It's just like, okay, that's what this dude is doing. And then Bo kind of like takes a hard left turn. Like, oh, all right. So it's not that. Like, I'm very curious to see where this goes. Like, is this more just like, not that Hereditary, Midsommar were flukes by any mean, but like he's not necessarily like trying to do horror all the time. He wants to do different stuff. We kind of saw the same to an extent with like Jordan Peele, where it wasn't like as horror-ish. Like, it was still a great movie, obviously. Nope. But just kind of a different version than we got like from Get Out and Us. So I don't know. I'm curious. I like Westerns. I'm stoked to see what it turns into. Eddington, is that what it's called? How you said? Yep,
Eddington. Eddington. Obviously fascinating that it'll be set during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fascinating that it's a Western. What sticks out the most to me that is intriguing is the fact that it will be an ensemble movie. I feel like every movie he has made so far has focused on 1 or 2 people. It has not been an ensemble picture. Even obviously looking at Bo, you have a great cast in Nathan Lane and Patti LuPone and Joaquin, but like, that's Joaquin's movie, right? You look at Hereditary, that's Toni Collette's movie. That is like designed for her. And you look at Midsommar, and that is Florence Pugh's movie, essentially. You have a great supporting cast, but that is not an ensemble picture by any means. So I'm really interested to see how he tackles that, how he stretches his directing style to kind of cover an entire group of people instead of just one main person in the story. I mean, look, we're going to be seated. Whether it's A24 or not, we're going to be there. So I'm excited.
We'll be there. And it looks like it's the same cinematographer, which is kind of awesome. And I guess Joaquin is set to lead the ensemble cast.
Oh,
which is interesting.
I love that.
Bring him back. Like if this becomes a duo that, you know, they keep working together, I'm all for it.
I'm 100% there. I love that so much. That's super. Cool. Like, man, look at Joaquin just going from Ari. He's going to Ridley Scott for Napoleon. He's got Joker coming out. Dude's working. Never an off day.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. I can't wait. Okay, let's talk about When You Finish Saving the World. Like I said, Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut. It is 87 minutes long. I just want to point that out. We love a good short movie on this pod.
Love it. It doesn't start with a 9. Like, that's amazing. I was just like blown away how short this was. Not triple digits. I know it's incredible. Like, I had to fit it in my schedule to like watch this movie, and I had forgotten. I was like, okay, it's probably like 90-ish minutes because I did see it at Sundance virtually in 2022. Yeah. And I was like, I don't remember it being super long, but like hour 45 probably. Like, okay, cool. I'll have enough time before I have to go do other things. And then I put it on, and it's like 87 minutes. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm like watching a TV show. This is great. Like, I don't even have to like really submit that much of my day to this movie. Like I said, it did play at virtual Sundance in 2022. I did get the chance to watch it then. And then I rewatched it for this pod. I think it's like technically a 2023 release from A24. But I do have a question for you because we talked last week about Past Lives, obviously. Past Lives debuted at Sundance in 2023, just 5 months ago. And A24 gave it the quick turnaround. They acquired it, they got it, and they put it out for distribution. And the same is happening with the new horror movie Talk to Me next month. Acquired at Sundance, put out 6 months later. A24 sat on this movie for like a year and a half. I don't have any special behind the scenes insight. Any idea why they might have decided to do that to this movie and have like a different release schedule? No, I have no clue like why you would sit on it this long, especially just the way they released it. You know, it's like that. I don't know why they would do that, but I don't know. I'm happy for Jesse Eisenberg that he got his first one in the bag, you know?
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I wonder if it was just like a library type thing. I wonder if they were just like trying to find the right time, like the right, you know, idea or like the right moment to like put it out to the world. This does make for 2 movies released in 2023 that are starring Julianne Moore, distributed by A24, that basically have no marketing. That is a weird sentence to me, considering how famous she was. I still feel like she's a superstar. I don't know.
I mean, she's Julianne Moore. She's fantastic. I mean, we watched Sharper earlier. I talked about how much I love Dirty Laundry. You know, that movie is what that movie is, but Julianne Moore is always fantastic. Looking up the release date, just while we're talking about that really quickly. Yeah. It got released like literally a year after it came out on Sundance. So it played Sundance January 20th, 2022, and it got a limited release in the US January 20th, 2023. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, I was even wondering, like, when did this technically get released out here? Because I don't know if I know when this came out.
So then can I ask you this? I have a bit of a quandary. I have a personal quandary here because I did see this in 2022, but it's technically a 2023 release. Can I put it on my 2023 rankings list on Letterboxd? Like, it technically qualifies, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's when it got the wide release, even though it was out for like all but 19 days of 2022, you know, like it's kind of crazy. Yeah, but I guess so. Yeah. Okay. It's the public release.
I read someone else's Letterboxd review and they put it in their 2022 ranked list, and I was like, uh-oh, I better not. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it on my 23.
Follow your heart.
Kind of follow my heart. What are your initial takeaways from the movie? What did you think of it as a whole?
Not a whole lot.
Whoa! Wow! Fucking dagger, ice cold.
Just right to it. Honestly, this movie, you know, my partner and I usually try to watch these together, but I needed to start it before she could, and I was like 33 minutes into it, And she was like, I was trying to explain stuff, and it was like, well, why is that happening? It was like, honestly, I have no idea. Like, I have no clue what the fuck's going on with this movie at all, you know? And then we were like 45 minutes in, and she's like, well, does she like the kid as like romantically or more like as a friend for her son? I was like, I have no clue. I don't know. We're 45 minutes in. Who would know? Why would we have any answers about that? Like, I have no fucking idea what's happening. And I've been watching, like, I wasn't like second screening where I wasn't paying attention. I was like, I don't know. Like, at first I thought like, oh, she just wants him as a friend for her son. And then it's like, does she want to fuck this kid? Like, I can't tell what's going on. Like, you gave him a Pacers hat, you know?
An Acer's hat.
An Acer's hat. Yeah, exactly. Like, I liked the songs. Like, I think I liked like the music and stuff like that. And that kind of speaks to the composer, Emil Massari, who we will know from, he did Last Black Man in San Francisco. He did Minari.
Oh my.
He did one of my favorite movies from last year, Stutz, that I talked about.
Oh,
my top 10 of the year.
Oh, so, right.
But he did like the Homecoming TV show. He's done a lot of stuff. So
we got to get him on the pod.
Also kind of, yeah, please, Emil, come on. I would love that. So I think that speaks to why I like that. And I guess Finn Wolfhard's band did like the other songs, like not the score, but like the whatever he performed. So
yeah,
and that's okay. It kind of sounded like someone trying to mix like Bob Dylan and Daniel Johnston, which was like fine for what he was doing. I know I'm not supposed to like the character, but I don't know. It wasn't doing enough of whatever it was trying to do for me. Like it wasn't dark enough to be a dark comedy. It was like Wes Anderson light, you know what I mean? It's like, this family's weird, but if they were just like a little weirder, I might be into it.
Right. Like, didn't pay for the premium Anderson version.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? This is like Kroger, Wes Anderson or whatever, you know, it's like, well, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, these people are quirky and, but it just, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily landing for me, until we got to the last 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't know how they landed the plane here, but I was like, I kind of liked how it wrapped up. I'm like, all right, they kind of pulled that off. I have no idea, again, how you land a plane that never took off for me, but like they did. Maybe they just moved it to another gate or something. I have no idea, but I was like, all right, like, it's like, I kind of get what's going on here. Like, that's cool, little whatever, maybe a bit much heavy handed or something, but like, it was the best part for me. I was like, okay, they kind of, they wrapped it up kind of nicely. And I would be curious to see what goes on here, but it's a bummer that even though it was only like 87 minutes, like 70 of it was spent with me just going like, what the fuck, what's going on? Like, I don't understand this at all. You know, it didn't make sense. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, because I feel like you were positive on it after Sundance. And then now with this rewatch, like, did it maintain its positivity for you? Did you how did it sit for you this time?
Well, so I was positive on it coming out of virtual Sundance, and I do think part of that is like the experience, right? Like, that was my first virtual Sundance. Like, I was able to get tickets for it. Like, I was like jacked to see a movie a year before it came out, right? Like, that was super cool. So I think that partially played into it. It definitely didn't hold up to what I thought of it the first round, but I don't think it dropped off like substantially for me. I still had a pretty good time. I definitely think, I guess, let me rephrase. I didn't have a pretty good time. I had a fine time. I think this movie is fine. I think it is really just like a really solid 3-star movie. And I do think it's an okay directorial debut. I think there's some good stuff here. I think the bones and like the core of it do demonstrate some of that like real peaceful pacing and real steady camera work that's not like hyper energized like a lot of, movies are today, or like what we've kind of been inundated with over the last 5 years. So I appreciate that out of Jesse Eisenberg, and I can notice those kinds of things. I loved the score. I loved this like juxtaposition of an 8-bit score and an orchestral score that we get with Evelyn and Julianne Moore's character. Yeah. And I thought like that worked really well together. It did just kind of remind me of like, I don't know, like a really cold early aughts, like coming of age story that is a directorial debut. Like, it is someone just kind of like messing around, like with trying to make a movie, and parts of it work and a lot of it doesn't. But I agree with you the last 10 minutes, and I wrote this in my Letterboxd review, I was just like, this movie's fine, but like the last 10 minutes, something just works. Like something just clicks over for me where I enjoy it. And it's definitely not earned, at least in my opinion. Like that the meeting, obviously we're in spoiler territory here. We'll talk about this in True Cinema, but like the meeting of Evelyn and Ziggy at the very end of them being like, oh, like we were right there for each other the whole time. That's like not earned by the movie at all. Like we do not get there as a unit. Like we just jump, we just take a massive leap to get there, but it kind of works. Like besides that point, I like it, and it is emotional. I like the color. I think it was nice, and you know, I thought it was okay. It does make sense that like there's basically no promotion for it, and A24 tossed it out in the third week in January, and like you kind of understand that a little bit because you know it's just like fine, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was another thing. You know, my partner asked me when she got home, was like, "So, what's the conflict?" I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea. Like, why a third of the way into a movie would I understand what the conflict is? Like, I have no clue, like, what the issue is here. It was giving me... Oh, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I do think that is primarily where it lacks. I don't think there's enough, like, protein on the bones to, like, really fill out what it is that we're doing. Like, why are we pursuing other things, right? I think it could have really benefited, not necessarily for more time, but definitely more prominent telling in that area of the characters.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that's where if the characters are more interesting, I'm less concerned about what the conflict is. But these characters just weren't super interesting to me. It was also like the vibe overall kind of reminded me of, do you remember us watching Funny Pages?
Oh yeah, totally remember. Yeah.
Like, it feels like a shared universe there a little bit, you know, and maybe it's just like the aesthetic or something. I'm like, I could see that kid having gone to that high school or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it was just like, it was fine. It's just like, it's a bummer to, I don't know, like we talked about at the beginning, to kind of waste Julianne Moore, you know, like she's so good.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. We covered Sharper, I don't know, a few weeks ago here on the pod. That's an Apple TV Plus original, very similar thing. Didn't come out of Sundance, but basically got no big promotion, no past lives type promotion, I guess. And that is featuring Julianne Moore. We felt similar about that movie and thought it did get a little out of hand at the end. Julianne Moore, which do you prefer? Do you prefer in When We Finish Saving the World? Do you prefer in Sharper?
Sharper, for sure. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah. If you're putting these two movies in front of me, I'm watching that one like 9 times out of 10.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, give me Lithgow and Sebastian Stan.
Oh,
like, yeah,
Sebastian Stan dancing. That's enough. That's not even honestly, Julianne Moore, like, and that locks it up.
Play that bar scene just on the loop for me. I'm like, great. I'm good.
Hit
to
it.
go.
Play the clip. Producer. That's me. I got to do that. Yeah, I think, I think it's really interesting too, like the diversity of Julianne Moore in these two roles. They are polar opposites of each other and characters and like the universes and the worlds, and like everything is just so completely different. I do think she is good in this role, and I think she does play like a pretty like dismayed mom, like that's pretty unhappy with her life. I think she plays it well, and I don't think the performances were any part of the problem. Like I said, I just think that it just wasn't there. It just felt kind of like a directorial debut, if you will. Let's do True Cinema so we can start rolling through this movie here. The opening scene, we get Ziggy, which is played by Finn Wolfhard, and basically he is live streaming. People are tuning into his live stream, and he's, shouting out all of his hi-hat fans. What do you think? You said you've got choice words for these two words. We've got hi-hat as a platform that he streams on, and he uses the word Terra Lift all the time. What did we do? Like, did Jesse Eisenberg basically just be like, I just want to make up a new word that means cool? Or like, what the fuck? Where did it come from?
So those were the two words. Like, because he uses them individually as well as Terra and Lift. He does back them up. It's like Terra Lift. And for those who are not watching the movie but are listening to us talk about it, Terra essentially gets used as like super or mega or really, and Lift is kind of cool, I guess, is like the easiest thing to put
rad.
It as.
Yeah.
So rad. Yeah. So when he says Terra Lift, it's like, oh, that's super cool, or
super
that's
dope.
Like kind of what he's saying, but he'll also use it in like a bad context or, whatever. It's just like, oh man, I was like Terra sad or whatever. He just like that kind of stuff. Like, what are you saying, man? Like, or he'll just respond like lift, like when he wants to say something cool lift, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, all right, dude, hold on. But again, like I realize this is probably because like Eisenberg doesn't want us to like this character, and it worked, you know, I guess. 'Cause I was like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, this is, it was really driving me crazy. But I have been a teenager before, and I understand that can be like, you can be annoying, you know, like when you're a teenager. I get it. And this worked, but unfortunately, like it just went too far, I guess. It got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm over it. We
got to stop.
You know what I mean? Like I was kind of in on it at first. I'm like, oh yeah, like kids trying to say cool stuff. And like, we get it a lot out here. Like I'm in Utah. We have a large Mormon population, and they'll use like substitute words like frick instead of fuck, you know, or obviously like shoot, shit. That's like everywhere. But, we get a lot of that here. So like, I remember hearing all those kind of words. This kind of felt like that, but it's just like, it went on for way too long. I was like, this is like, I'm Terra pissed that this is continually happening. You know what I mean? Like it was not lift at all of Jesse Eisenberg to continue to put this in the script. That's how I feel about those two words.
It does. It has the potential. And I agree with you 1,000,000%. I Terra agree with you that like, I understand that it's an annoying character and he's supposed to be that way. He's supposed to be kind of like a douchey high schooler that thinks the world revolves around him. And like, that is the point for 87 minutes. And I get that. It also can come across as redundant and quote like lazy writing to just be like, oh, he's just going to like say Terra and lift all the time. Like, just plug it in. Like, let's just have him say it all the time. And it's like, to your point, like I think we got it like 15 minutes in, and like we can sparsely use those after that moment. I kind of liked this opening because we get that initial like 8-bit kind of soundtrack. We get an idea of who he is. He does stream to the world. He has 20,000 followers, and people like send him tips on hi-hat, and we kind of understand like his world, and we go right into basically like him freaking out at Evelyn and his mom for knocking on the door, right? And like how precious this time when he's streaming is. What did you think of his music? Did you think it was good or not?
No, like I don't know that it was like good, but I think it was appropriate for the character, especially for someone who was just like, you know, those were kind of interesting words that got used around the hi-hat software, the system, whatever, is like, oh yeah, and I'm like validated, you know, instead of like verified or whatever. Like I thought that stuff was kind of interesting. And just continually talking about his like 20,000 followers and stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
And that's a big theme for his character, right? Like he does get that validation from playing online and playing his songs, and like he thinks he's a rock star. He thinks he's a superstar and like will, you know, potentially change the world. And then, you know, he finds out with Lila, someone that he is trying to grow a relationship with at school, like politics and world things and topics like are more powerful and like are more interesting to people than your you know, Terra lift music on hi-hat with 20,000 fans. So leading me into the next scene here, when Ziggy does agree with Lila on world issues and basically flips the conversation to be like, yeah, well, you know, I agree with you. And someone's like, how so? And he's like, well, I have 20,000 followers on hi-hat, and like I just, you know, I feel like my platform is a chance for them to escape like their poverty and all of these things, and really twist the conversation. And I do think like that's one of the first scenes, or like one of the first few scenes that we see, and you're like, oh dude, that's like really cringe that you're doing this right now in front of these people.
Yeah, for sure. Just, you know, he didn't anticipate getting called out, which comes up later on as well. But it was fun to kind of see him squirm a little bit. You know, just almost like word association. Like, all right, she said China. Like, oh, I have followers from China, so let me talk about how my followers are cool people. You know, it's like, all right, man. Good job.
Not what we were going for.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss. Installing the red beacon light. I wanted to put this on here because, again, like him recording is so important to him, and his mom, you know, has in the past knocked on the door and interrupted him. He installs this absolutely obtuse red light that is I mean, it's literally like a cop light. Like it just, He nails it into the wall, and it's just spinning around and around, and it's so red and so bright. And besides that fact, him and his mom have a conversation about like volunteering at the shelter that she works at and helping kind of displaced women and family of physical abuse. And he questions her of like, oh, you want me to come work there? Will I be a paid employee? No, I'm too busy to be a volunteer. And I was like, God damn, dude, you're an ass to your mom. Like just a total dickhole.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm too busy. I have plans this weekend or whatever. Like, okay, cool, man. I was like, what kind of volunteer is this? Is like a paid volunteer or a free volunteer? Yeah, that light is like just absurd as well. You know, that like you said, it's kind of like the old timey police siren that they would like put on top of the car as they take off to chase somebody, like minus the noise, but it's like that shot where the dad's coming up the stairs when we see the light spinning. I was like, man, there's so many other things you could have done to like just
so many.
You know, yeah, it was nuts.
Like just put the light doesn't have to spin, you know, like just put a red light, little red light out there. That's all you got to do.
Red light. That's it.
What do you feel for the dad? You mentioned the dad. I feel so bad for this dad. Like he kind of just lives a shit life. He's just like, fuck you guys. I'm going upstairs to read. And it's just like, oh, this is your life. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why he just gets lost in whatever it is that he's reading. You know, he does have one of the funnier scenes, you know, when he's asking his son if he's okay and stuff.
Are you happy with your life?
Yeah. Are you happy with your life? Like that's his way of finding out, you know, if his son's is suicidal or not. So I like the dad though. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he does bring some like much needed comic relief.
Yeah, levity. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thought it was good. Evelyn emotionally adopting Kyle. Now Kyle is this kid who winds up living at the shelter that Evelyn works at, and basically she has a conversation with him and emotionally adopts him and is like, hey, you should go to college and you should do things that someone in your family hasn't done before, and I can help you do that. And then, you know, we'll get to it, but she proceeds to spend more time with him. And, you know, I think I got the vibe initially of like, she's just trying to fill her son's spot for sure. Like she's just trying to find a kid that's the same age that is receptive to her parenting style. But as the movie progresses, I could totally see like where you're coming from of like, what's your end goal here? Like, do you just want the guy to go to college, or like, do you just want to like hang around and bone? Like what are you doing, right? Because he ends up essentially shouting at her and telling her to like, you got to stop this.
Yeah, that's another thing again. Like I don't know with the way it ended up. Like what was the intent behind this? Like is she really just trying to help someone that's going to let her help them, you know, as opposed to like what her son is doing, or is there some other, you know, desires behind this? But it is cool to see that in her face, I guess, like the first time that she sees the son and the mom, it's like, oh, not all sons are assholes, you know, like it kind of like clicks her like, oh, wait, like sons can be okay to their moms. So, and then her just kind of chasing that, not getting it from her son. She's like, all right, well, I'll see if Kyle will provide that for me. So, it was interesting. The development in their relationship was also like intriguing, I guess, to watch, you know, to see like how far down the rabbit hole she was going while he was just like, I just want to work on cars. Like that's it, you know, and all the strings she's trying to pull and stuff she's trying to do. Their, you know, confrontation at the end, I think worked. That kind of paid off for me. Yeah.
I will say, Kyle had one of the worst lines in the movie when him and his mom are getting like kind of doing their intake with Evelyn, and he's like, hey mom, you know what you need right now? Another tissue. And she's like, oh yeah, I do. And I was just like, God fucking damn it. This is the worst. It was so bad. I hated it.
Terrible bad.
Very bad. Terrible bad. Yeah, terrible bad. Ziggy and Evelyn have a conversation in the car. Evelyn drops him off at school, basically about like, I raised you to go to, you know, rallies and political protests, and I raised you to be a certain way, and then one day you switched and now you're not that way anymore. And that was kind of Evelyn's admission of like, I don't necessarily see you as my son directly. Like you're not who I raised you to be. And that is Ziggy's confirmation of like, you don't see me for who I am. So like, we just have this vast cavern of a divide in between us. I think it's a beneficial conversation. It is a scene that works for me. And And I thought it was really funny at the end how he just like pounds the hood of the door and walks away.
Yeah, that was so strange right at the end.
So weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene was pretty good as well. You know, I'm just like, hey, you're into like politics, like tell me something like that I can like repeat. And then him getting frustrated that she's basically calling out that he just wants a spurt cut. Like, stop saying that. Like, I mean, it's what you're looking for, dude. Like, you just want like, you know, you don't want to put in the work and stuff. So I thought that was a good scene that came together well at the end. And then, yeah, just like the weird hood slam. I was like, all right, man, I guess like people got to get out their anger however they
Sick,
can.
bro. Yeah, I guess better that than something else. Just a few more. The dinner explosion. They basically all show up for dinner and have a mad argument, freak out Evelyn against Ziggy, and they're just shouting at each other. And Ziggy is, you know, barreling his narrative down her throat of like, I make music and I've made more money than you ever will, and you'll die poor and all these things. And Evelyn is saying she doesn't want all that, and that's not like the world that she wants to be a part of. Yeah. And they basically just have a big blow up. That is kind of that like second act pinnacle going into the third act of like, how are we going to resolve all of this stuff? Did it work for you? I'm curious if you felt a lot out of that scene.
I mean, not to show my hands, but this is probably my runner up for my true cinema moment. I liked this scene quite a bit. I liked them kind of going back and forth, and even just the way it ends, where he's like, just keep it down, you know, like goes upstairs. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know like what kind of household you were brought up in, but like, I cannot imagine just telling my mom to shut the fuck up like he does like so many times. Like, this isn't the first time at all. You know,
I would have been deported, man. I would have been sent off.
Yeah, just like saying anything like that. Like even earlier in this scene, like I'm like, I forget what he says, like fucking, not even directed at someone, but just like, yeah. I was like, dude, holy God, we could never have said that before. That's crazy. So I liked it because I just let both of them kind of get their thing out, and then Dad's just like sitting there, like, yeah, all right, I'm just gonna let them do this.
Yeah, and I thought what worked really well of the scene as well is like once Ziggy leaves, the dad is basically like, Evelyn, and she's like, I know. And so like we get that idea. This happens frequently. Like, this is not the first blow up they've had. They've not been building to this for months or years. Like, this happens on a pretty regular basis or a frequent basis. So, you know, I do think it kind of like helps cement the fact that this is just kind of a rotating door of like emotion that they continue to walk through time and time again. Yeah. Ziggy playing Lila's poem in song form for her, on a scale of like 0 to Terra awkward, this is like Terra plus awkward.
Dude, this is my nightmare. Like, I cannot imagine ever singing for anyone ever, and that like includes even karaoke. Like, I can't
love my wife, love you, Ben. Will never sing a word.
I couldn't do it. Like, there's just like that's when he's like, I wrote something for you. I just wanted to curl into a ball, and just like die. It's like, no, don't ever do that for anybody ever. Like even like watching shows like The Bachelor or something like that, and they'll show up and be like, I wrote something. It's like, you would be, if I was The Bachelor, like, you'd be out. Like, don't make me sit here and listen to you sing.
You're done.
You're making me feel awkward. I don't care. Like, you've got to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, and like, especially in this scene, he like sits down and he's like, little uncomfortable to play from this position. Maybe I could sit up there, but where are you going to sit? And she's like, next to you. And I'm just like, God fucking damn it, dude. Use your brain. Like, let's think about what we're doing here. Tough. Real tough scene. Real tough. Evelyn talks to Kyle at school. You kind of mentioned this. We have a big blow up with their relationship where Evelyn finds out that Kyle's mom basically is not willing to push him to go to college. She decides to kind of, usurp that power dynamic and go straight to Kyle and tell him. She really freaks out. And then Kyle basically tells her back down, and she like, scared little dog is like, okay, I'm so sorry, whatever. And then we get our ending montage, which, I think worked for both of us. Yeah. The YouTube videos at the end, was that actually Finn when he was a kid? Because it looked pretty identical.
Yeah, it was pretty spot on in my eyes. Like, oh, this is, I made me wonder, like, does he have like younger siblings or something? But even then, like, it looked a lot like him, and it wouldn't surprise me because that does kind of feel like the generation who grew up just wanting to be famous. You know what I mean? And there are so many reasons I'm glad I grew up when I did, but the fact that there isn't like a lot of evidence of me as a middle schooler and stuff is like a huge reason. It's like,
no Slim Shady on the internet.
Oh my God. I cannot even imagine. I could not live that down. People make fun of like, Jaden Smith, but it's like, dude just has the internet and a lot of thoughts, and it's like, what are you going to do? it would be so
That's
embarrassing.
Fair.
So it could totally be him. But I thought maybe it was like a sibling or something like that, but it looked a lot like him.
It did. And I will say, however heavy-handed it was, and it was quite heavy-handed, I think anytime you get a mom or a dad that is of their own volition, searching out childhood videos of their child that they are basically estranged from or having a difficult relationship with, that's just like a guaranteed heartstring for me, where it's just like, that's going to work pretty much every time. Yeah. I don't care if it's earned or not. Like, that just is, it's just smart. Like, it just works for me personally. So I think that's part of what made this work in the end for me. I don't really see how Ziggy jumped from like getting rejected by Lila to then deciding like, okay, I guess I better go, search out my mom for consolation. Like, I just don't understand that gap particularly. You mentioned your runner up, but what is your true cinema moment for the movie?
The thing that I liked the most was both of them coming home, and he's like a couple houses away. He's like, "Hey, Mom," and she's like, "I'm not gonna.
I'm not shouting."
Like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not shouting. I'm gonna wait for you to get here." I was like, watch him walk up, like, "Okay, what's going on?" But then them going inside and the dad just sitting there. He's like, "Where the fuck were you guys?
You fucking stole my true cinema. Fuck you,
is that
man.
True?
That is
true?
Mine. Yes.
Yeah. Both of us can have it. Like, I just thought it was great.
Incredible.
And it's like, oh yeah, I got my like Chancellor Award or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm sure they'll hand out a once in a lifetime achievement award again. Don't worry about it. It's like, I'm going upstairs to read. I just like that scene a lot. He's like, you're both narcissists. It's like, what does that make you? Unlucky. Yeah. It's like,
so
okay.
He starts that scene. He says, "Where the fuck were you guys? Today was my chancellor ceremony." And they both just like start coming up with excuses. Like, I had work. I had something to do at school, whatever. And he goes, you both could have been there, is basically how he leaves that. He then says a couple of other things. He leaves to go upstairs. And then Evelyn and Ziggy look at each other, and Evelyn's like, he seems upset. And I just died. I thought that was hilarious. That was my true cinema moment. So we're going to share for this week.
It's like neither of them learned anything. They're just like, oh, I don't know what's going on with him.
Incredible moment, which I think works very well, of like, these people are two narcissists. Like, they just only care about themselves. And even when they're confronted with the really harsh reality that someone they love is now hurt by their actions, it changes nothing about them. And so I do think that it helps move that dialogue around both of them just being terrible people. Whether, that is hit home elsewhere in the movie or not, is up for debate. But I like that scene a lot. And like, that's a great YouTube clip to be like, you want to see something funny? This is funny. So yeah, I had a good time with that one. Okay. A1 act. Let's do coming of age. We might have done coming of age before on the pod. I don't know, but we're going to do it anyway because it's fun. And yeah, why not? So we've got When You Finish Saving the World, essentially, a coming of age story. 8th Grade, another A24 flick. Boyhood, The Breakfast Club, Lady Bird, Moonlight, Call Me By Your Name, Stand By Me, Mid-90s, Turning Red, and American Graffiti. That is our short list for the week. You created the short list, and I'm positive that you've left something off, so you could take it.
You are correct. You're very correct. Yes. I left 2 off because I didn't know if you were going to take the other one. But the one I am going to mention is also a directorial debut, and it's Taika Waititi's directorial debut called Boy. It's a really good movie about, a kid who his dad is kind of estranged, and he just tells all these kind of like not intentional lies, but just like, oh yeah, my dad, he's a roadie for Michael Jackson. Like, he's doing that kind of stuff, and he could beat up everyone else. And then like the dad kind of comes back. We realize like, oh, he's kind of like a loser a little bit, and it's played by Taika Waititi, and it's like, it's really funny. It was his first movie and very well done. until Love and Thunder, Taika was, batting 1,000 for me. So
hard agree.
If you haven't seen Eagle versus Shark, check that out.
So good.
Shadows. Like, there's a lot of really good movies from him.
Hunt for the Wilder People,
obviously, but Boy is his first one, and I think it's a great coming of age movie.
It's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. Was there another one that you left off the list too? You said you left 2 off the list.
Yeah. Do you want it? Let me tell you what it is.
Yeah, I want you to tell me.
Little film by a director you love called Dazed and Confused.
Classic. That's a good one. How much would it shock you to say that I have never seen Dazed and Confused?
A lot, actually. I'm kind of surprised.
I've been really, really close to watching it a ton of times, and the same goes with Boyhood. I just haven't been in the right mental space to watch these films, right? So I probably would pick Boyhood if I had seen it. Obviously, I love Lady Bird. I love Moonlight. I love The Breakfast Club. Incredible movie. Mid-90s on the list here. I am gonna go with Turning Red. Actually, nice. One of my favorite movies of 2022. So incredibly underrated. Went straight to Disney Plus and just botched probably what would have been a great box office return. Excellent animation. Really fun. Mother-daughter story. Coming of age. Coming into your own. My girls love that movie. I adore that movie. I think it's really, really top shelf, when it comes to Pixar type stuff, Disney. And I just think it needs to be talked about more. I think it's very good.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah. Lots of good coming of age movies out there though. I feel like that's a hard list to narrow down.
Yeah, we could still be listing movies right now if we wanted to, but I'm just people know what they like. Let's just talk about a couple of them,
That's true. Okay, next on the list, actor turned director. This is tough because there are a lot of actors turned directors, and of course, not all of them are very good or even very great. So we've got Jesse Eisenberg in the case of When You Finish Saving the World. I'll go through what we have on the list here. We don't have any movies next to them, so I guess a game for the listeners. See if you can figure out what movie they directed, right? Some of them, multiple movies.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood, multiple movies, obviously. Ron Howard. Ben Affleck. Love Ben Affleck. Where are you at on Ben Affleck? You're in, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as a director, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Anytime that guy can get behind a camera, we've got a gem on our hands, for sure.
He's great.
Jordan Peele, Regina King, Greta Gerwig, shout out Barbie, let's go. George Clooney, Jon Favreau, Jodie Foster, Rob Reiner, Zach Braff, John Cassavetes, Harold Ramis, Ben Stiller, Drew Barrymore, Olivia Wilde, R.I.P. Don't Worry Darling, tough go on that one. Penny Marshall, Tom Hanks, Warren Beatty. That's the short list here. I think I know who I'm going to pick, and it might surprise some people. What are you going to pick?
Well, so at first I was going to go off the body of work, but
sure.
If we're just picking one movie for a director, I am going to do a little shameless cross promotion here. And it is a genuine answer though, but we are covering remakes over at 3 Films and a Podcast. And this week we are talking about A Star Is Born, directed by Bradley Cooper. His directorial debut. It's crazy because that's the 4th time that story has been told.
Yep.
It was done in the 30s. It was then done with Judy Garland. It was then done with Barbra Streisand. And then he pulled it off with Lady Gaga. And it's such a genuinely fantastic movie, a fantastic soundtrack. We talked about the fact that it is possibly the best soundtrack created for a movie since Purple Rain. I don't know if there's a better one. If you have an idea, please tell us. So just for a single movie that's directed by someone who we primarily know as an actor, I am going to go with A Star Is Born from Bradley Cooper.
That's an incredible pick. I love that. I love A Star Is Born.
So good.
So I've only seen it one time in my life, but I loved it so much and it stuck with me so much where I'm just it's really emotionally bounding. And so I can't just be oh, let's fire up A Star Is Born. I just know how invested and sad I'm going to become when I put that movie on. Especially the meme, I just wanted to look at you one more time. Just fucking brutal. So I can't watch it that often, but yes, incredible soundtrack. I guess La La Land notwithstanding, or where are you at on the soundtrack for that?
What? Sorry, I cut out. I don't know what happened.
Sorry, come again? I missed that title. Man, you're just a Chazelle hater. That's what I'm learning. Okay. Lots of good names on this list. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of really, really good things. I'm going with Ben Stiller. I think he is absolutely an underrated director for his entire like body of work, but his directorial debut, Reality Bites, with Ethan Hawke and Winona Ryder, and Janine Garofalo and Steve Zahn, like excellent film. I love that movie. I think it's right up my alley of like, you know, a coming of age of like trying to figure out where you're at in the world and relationships and where you stand. Ben Stiller is in the movie. An incredible Frampton Comes Alive album moment in that film. And I just think that movie, I don't know if it's necessarily underrated, but I think Ben Stiller as a director, incredibly underrated. Even when he's talked about for like Severance, people are like, wow, Ben Stiller has such an eye for like creating good movies. It's like, no shit, he's been doing it for 30 years and like nobody's aware of it. It's startling to me every time. Yeah,
he's fantastic. I think one of my favorite of his probably would be Cable Guy.
Dude, yes. I just watched Cable Guy for the first time a few weeks ago.
It's pretty good, right?
It's pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. I like it.
When he walks into the gym with like 2 basketballs, he's like, you guys play here too? Like, come on. I mean, that's pretty solid. So. Yeah,
that is pretty funny. I mean, he also directed, so like you said, he directed The Cable Guy, he directed Zoolander, and then he does Tropic Thunder in 2008, which is comedy gold, and then The Secret Life of Walter Mitty in 2013, which is one of my favorite movies of all time and stars himself as well. So shout out Ben Stiller. Just keep making movies, dude.
Yeah, a lot of great movies.
Or Severance Season 2, whenever you want to do that, I guess, is a good time.
I still need to watch Season 1.
Whoa, you got to do that. Look,
got to do it.
Support our writers, and hopefully they're on strike for as long as they need to be to get their due. But yes, Ben Stiller's great. Okay, A24 ranking for When You Finish Saving the World. Where are you going to land?
It jumped up a letter grade given our conversation. But it went from a D+ to a C-.
Oh.
I'm going to go with a C- 24 for When You Finish Saving the World. Like, this is probably like a 2.5 star movie for me. And if, you know, if it wasn't for the music, like the score and stuff, and then like the occasional jokes that landed, I just don't know that this would really be ranking high at all. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the C- 24.
Yeah, respectable. Totally fair. I'm going to go with a C 24. I think you're right. I think it's essentially right in the middle of the pack. I think I liked it a bit more than you did. I think I like it a bit more than most of the people I'm seeing, especially on Letterboxd. And I will say, if it didn't have the scenes with the dad, I think we're looking at like a D 24, like a D-, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I think his character was essential, and if we had gotten more of his character, I think we would have jumped up some grades. The movie's absolutely not about him at all, but the scenes that he is in are monstrously pivotal to understanding our characters as a whole. And the final 10 minutes do work. Like they just work for me. Even if they're not deserved, they work. So I think C24, 100% like middle of the library. I got to add this to my A24 ranked letterbox list. And that's always the hardest when you're like, oh, let me rank it at number 62 out of 98. It's like, I don't really know. So any closing thoughts on When You Finish Saving the World? Anything you didn't say?
No, I've said more than I wanted to, I think. So I feel pretty good on When He Finished Saving the World. I am curious to see what he does next. This movie definitely, I felt like I was watching a Jesse Eisenberg movie, you know, which like isn't particularly like a compliment, because like he's a particular kind of actor, which works for the roles that he does. Like when he's, you know, Zuckerberg, or when he's like, you know, even like American Ultra, like there are movies he's in that he's really good at, Zombieland, but I don't know that I love that kind of personality coming over into the director's chair. So, I don't know. I don't know that I'll be revisiting this anytime soon.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Let me walk you through 2 things that show up on his IMDb as upcoming directorial projects. One is called A Real Pain. It is in pre-production, apparently. It's 2 cousins travel to Poland after their grandmother's death to see where they came from and end up joining a Holocaust tour. Jesse Eisenberg is in this movie. Alora Torchia is in this movie. And then our beloved Kieran Culkin also in this film, which I think is fascinating. So written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg. And then it looks like he is also writing and directing another film TV series, called Bream Gives Me Hiccups. And it's a very, very long log line, so I'm not going to read it to you. You can search it out, but It's starring Parker Posey.
Hell yeah. Okay.
So I hope I injected you with a little Eisenberg spark there, because he looks like he's got some good stuff coming up. We will see.
I mean, Culkin and Posey, like I'm here for it. So that's good.
Yeah, pretty solid. Love to see it. Cool stuff. Next week on the pod, we are venturing to the place nobody ever wants to go. We are covering the entire first season of The Idol, all 5 episodes that apparently was supposed to be more, and now it's not. I don't know. Well, we will come prepared. We will do our research, but we're doing it for the pod. We've previously covered the first episode of this a few weeks ago when it did premiere. We watched episode 1. It wasn't good, so what the hell? Let's cover the whole goddamn show in one episode. Are you excited, Ben?
Huh? What? Again, the audio's cutting out. I don't know what's happening here. We'll see how prepared we come. But yes, this is going to be an interesting show to recap without a doubt.
I told you off air that, basically I think it isn't important to cover in terms of the A24 library, but I think personally, like, it sounds like such a dumpster fire that it's like a car crash. Like, you want to know the details. You want to know, like, why it's so bad, what is going on. I feel like I want to be in that for one, episode of this podcast, and then never, ever, ever think about it again, because it's still like the lowest rated HBO original show ever. It had the most amount of TV social media impressions in a week ever, I think, like as of last week or so. Like, really, really strange stats are going on with this show and the culture. So I don't know what to expect, but we're going to cover it.
Well, you guys will be here. The things we do for the listeners. Getting back to something that I didn't like a little more. I don't know if I said that right, but let us know what you thought about When You Finish Saving the World, the movie that's a year and a half old, technically, that we're finally covering. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 Minutes of A24. We're also on YouTube where you can watch us and, put your comments, subscribe, hit the bell, all that kind of stuff. So we are on YouTube. Thank you again, everyone, for your support. We really appreciate it.
And you can check out our Patreon too. Go to patreon.com/
We do have a Patreon.
24 minutes of not A24.
Not A24. We're leading up for the Mission Impossible release, Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Fuck yeah, baby.
Do we want to announce what we're covering next? Do you want
to
let them know
do
what
it,
franchise?
Man. You're going to lock me in, because I've been texting you back and forth, and I've been I changed my mind. I changed my mind.
Which franchise, starting with the letter P, are you going to pick?
Yeah, so I put up a poll a few weeks ago, and everybody voted on the Alien franchise, and I quickly struck that down just because I have little to no interest, because I've seen Alien and Aliens like 1,000 times each. And so I was thinking about The Purge, because I was like, great idea for a movie. Could they execute? I don't know. And then you sent me an Instagram post with a really cool Pirates of the Caribbean shirt. And I was like, damn it, you swayed me. So we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean. We're doing all 5 movies. And then you get to pick the franchise or the genre after that. We'll keep that under wraps for now. But Pirates of the Caribbean, we're going to cover it on the Patreon. And I'm really fucking excited. I love Pirates.
I think I've only seen the first 2, so I'm very curious to see how the series goes, because I like the first movie. I can, show my hand. So
I like the first movie, and I know that I saw the last movie in theaters, and that was like forever ago. And I remember walking out of that theater being like, that was pretty cool. So we'll see if it holds up, but we'll get there when we get there.
We will see. Follow us on Patreon. It's not that much at all. It's like $4 a month or something like that, and it helps support the pod, which is fantastic. So we'll have the links in the description. But again, thank you everyone for your support, no matter how you watch or what you take in. We really appreciate it, especially leaving us comments. We love interacting with everyone, so please continue to do that. That's it for this week. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.